All right, we got the BougeRV 2000 watt, 12 volt pure sine wave inverter. We're gonna be doing some testing on it, do a little review to see how this thing stacks up against other 12 volt inverters, and give you a few options that you might be able to use this thing for if you're trying to power something in your house. So to start out with, like I said, it's a 2000 watt pure sine wave inverter. It's gonna have a couple of outlets right here that's built into the side, and it's going to have an on-off switch built into the side right here, and it's going to have a fault light, and it's going to have a power on light. So it's going to tell you if the power's on and if there's a fault. And it's also going to have a place, so if you want to hook up to a panel, you can go ahead and hook up to these screw terminals right here on the side, be able to run it straight from the terminals. And this thing's also going to come with a little external LCD screen, and as you can see right here, it's going to have all your information on there that you're going to want to know. Going to have your voltage, it's going to tell you your output watts and all that right here on the screen, and it's going to come with a pretty long cord. I can go ahead and look it up and put the spec up here, how long the actual cord is. So if you want to put this inverter, let's say you're putting it in an RV or something, and you want to put this right next to you, where you're mainly at in your living space, you can put it right there where you can see it on the wall or on a cabinet or something like that, and you'll be able to see what your voltage is, your battery, your output watts, and your output voltage. And it's also going to have your hertz up here as well, so 60, just depending on where you're living at, it could be 50 or 60. And then if you want to actually turn this off, it's going to have a backlit button. You can turn that off, it'll turn your display off, or you can turn it back on. And then you can also turn the AC from 110 to 120 volts. You can go ahead and change that on here, and you can also turn the inverter on and off. So let's go ahead and try that. So inverter's turned off. Now let's see if we can turn it back on. And we turned it back on. Bam, right here from the display. So externally from the actual inverter yourself, if you have this mounted underneath something, be able to turn the inverter on and off. If you are not using that time, you want to save power, because of course this thing's always going to be drawing a little bit of power. And that's basically the first test that we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and get a clamp meter. We'll see how much amperage is coming from the battery to see what kind of wattage we're getting for idle consumption, because you want to see how fast it's going to drain your 12 volt battery system, while it's just sitting there not being used. So as you see right here, I just got it hooked to a 12 volt battery over here on the side, just one battery. Let's go ahead and grab a clamp meter. Let's go ahead and zero it by holding this down. All right. And right now, 0.6 amps. Let me see if I can turn the meter where you can actually see it. So 0.6 amps right there. Let's go ahead and bring you in so you can see this. So bam, right there, as you may be able to see, 0.59, 0.6 amps. So let's go ahead and see the voltage. So the voltage right now is 13.7 volts. So 13.7 times the 0.6. So 8 watts of idle consumption. So 8.22 watts of idle consumption. So idle consumption, not bad on this at all. So 8 watts, if you got it going 24 hours, that's only going to be 197 watts. Hey, not bad at all compared to a lot of inverters. Let's go ahead and get the first thing plugged up and try to run it. And your limiting factor on this is going to be your battery bank. So the BMS on this battery, it's not going to be enough to let this thing take 2,000 watts. I'd have to hook up 2 batteries. So right now we're just going to see what we can run with it. I'm sure this inverter will probably do the 2,000 watts. I just don't know if the battery will. I really doubt it. But we're going to hook up a heat gun and see what we can get. What I may have to do, so I got the heat gun right here, and it's got a couple of different settings. We'll start on low, see what we can pull. See, I got it plugged in right here on the side, and go ahead and turn this on. $866 watts, so about 860 right now, as you can see. 800 watts. You might not be able to see it because it's focusing in on my face. Let me go ahead and focus in on that screen. So no problems running 800 watts consistently. Let's go ahead and turn that off, and as you'll see, it'll go down here on the display. Now it's back down to 0 watts of output. So let's go ahead, make sure it's focused in on there, and let's try to turn it on high and see what happens. See if we get a fault. $1,141 watts, 1176, 1187. So no problems running 1,100 watts. Oh, wait a minute. The battery BMS might have kicked it out. Let's see here. The inverter is off. So when I turn this off, the inverter kicked out. So I don't know if that was a BMS. All right, I don't know what happened there. So I don't know if it was a BMS or I actually hit the off or something. But let's try it again, and let's see when I have it on high and when I turn it off, if it kicks out the inverter again. That was a little weird there. Let's go ahead and I'm gonna turn it back on high. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and kick it off and see if it kicks out the inverter. So the inverter's still running, and as you may or may not be able to hear, this inverter has fans on it, and they were just running pretty hard. I guess when it gets over 1,000 watts, the inverter fans must kick on. Let's try it on low again when it was at about 800 watts and see if the fans kick on, because I didn't hear them kick on the first time. Let's go ahead and get this up here where you can see the display. I got it on again. I got it on low. It's up to 864 watts, and the fans are not on. And as you can see, the fan did not kick on the inverter. So it must be about 1,000 watts when it gets to that. The inverter fans kick on to try to keep the inverter cool, which, you know, is a good thing. You want to keep your electronics cool. So it seems like it's doing what it's supposed to do. And let's kick this thing. Let's see if we can get this inverter to kick out again. I'm gonna go ahead and kick this thing back up to high. And actually, I'm gonna hook up something else. Go ahead and connect my little go-to 1.5 gallon little shop vac here, 2 horsepower, 2 peak horsepower. Let's go ahead and hook that up and see if it'll run that and see how much power it's pulling. Go ahead and put the heat gun down a little bit. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and hit that shop vac. So the shop vac, I only saw it get up to about 659 watts or something like that. So it's pulling less than the heat gun. So what we'll do, we'll get the heat gun going. I'll try to just sit it up here, out of the way. Get this up here. Let's see if we get this thing around 2,000 watts. I'm pretty sure the BMS on this battery is not going to let this happen, but we're going to try it anyway. I'm going to kick this heat gun on high, and you'll be able to see the power pulled. And then once I'm done and it gets up to about 1,100 and some watts, I'll turn on the shop vac. Let's see how high we can get this thing. We get it to 2,000 for a minute. All right, we're already up to 1,179 watts. Let's go ahead and kick on the shop vac and see what we get to. And it kicked out. And I'm pretty sure it didn't kick out because of the inverter. It kicked out because of the battery BMS, because there's no power going to the inverter now. I'll kick it off and on and nothing. The button, as you can hear it going on and off, it's not coming on. It's because the battery BMS kicked out. You know, it's probably only rated for like 100 amps, and that was, I'm sure, way over 100 amps. So if we're trying to do, I'm guessing that was probably up to about 2,000 watts. I had to go back and watch the video. But let's just say it's 2,000 watts divided by, let's just say it's 13.7 volts, which I know it was lower than that. You know, that's 145 amps. and it's only rated for 100 amps for this battery discharge. It's going to kick out when it gets much higher than that. But if you have 2 batteries hooked up, it definitely seems like this thing's going to do the 2,000 watts. So we'll go ahead and try it again to see if the battery came back on. All right, the battery's back on. And we'll try to pay attention this time and see if the voltage and everything drops too whenever it's doing that. Because right now, it looked like it dropped when the heat gun came on. I wasn't paying attention to that before. So let's see what we get. All right, we're about at 119 volts, 120 volts. Let's go ahead and kick just the heat gun on and see if the voltage drops. All right, so not terrible. As you hear, the inverter fans are still on. It's trying to cool itself back off. But that voltage went from 120 down to, I think, about 114 or so. I guess when it stops or starts, it takes it a minute to catch up. It's definitely not perfect. It's a 12-volt inverter. So you can't expect the same thing as you can expect out of like a 48-volt inverter like I got back here, where it's more stable with the voltage. But let's go ahead, because it did come back up to 120 after a second. So we'll go ahead and kick the heat gun back on, and then we'll kick on the shop vac, and we'll see what the voltage looks like and see how long it runs before the BMS kicks it out again. I want to see what the wattage and the voltage went up to, because I couldn't really see it the last time. I'm going to be trying to pay more attention this time. All right. Heat gun on high. Heat gun on high. 152 watts. Let's go ahead and kick on the shop vac. $1,811 watts before I saw it kick out. And of course, this is going to be just probably a little bit behind what it's actually pulling. It's probably going to take it a second to update on the screen for the monitor. Go ahead and unplug this. So definitely one limitation with this, as you can already see, is if you don't have a battery with a 200 amp BMS, you're not going to be able to probably get this full 2,000 watts consistently out of this inverter, or you need 2 batteries. So let's go ahead and see if there's some more tests we can run that'll run just off this one battery, some different kind of loads. Let's see what else I got. And maybe what we'll do is we'll just run that constant load with this. Let's just run it for like 5 minutes just to make sure it'll consistently run that 1,100 some watt just off a 100 amp hour 12-volt battery. We'll see if it'll keep running a constant load for like 5 minutes. So let's go ahead. We'll start it. Let me turn the thing back on. Still waiting on the battery BMS, I guess. So as soon as that battery BMS kicks back on, we'll start a timer. Try to run this thing for 5 minutes. I should have timed how long it takes this BMS to kick back on, since that seems like my big problem. I just recommend, if you want to max this thing out, just get a battery, 200 amp hour output or 200 amp hour batteries, just to make your life easier. And of course, if you start making your systems too big, you may want to move up from a 12 volt to a bigger system like 24 volt or 48, because 12 volt is not going to be as efficient. But, this might be what you can afford. You may want to hook this up just maybe like a car battery and just have this for an emergency backup power for your fridge or something like that. And it's going to work perfectly fine for that, because most times it's probably be pulling like 300 to 500 watts, especially if the thing is already cold. So you just hook that thing up to your car battery. Every once in a while you start the car up, charge your battery back, you should be good to go. But with these lithiums, of course, going to have the BMS in it that's going to tell it, hey, kick out if this thing's trying to pull too many amps, trying to protect itself. All right, and as you can see, I'll pull it up and show it to you right here. I got the app up for the battery just to show you it's in protection mode. And we'll go to details. And, at the top it's saying protecting ODC. I mean, I'm guessing it's overcurrent protection. I'm not exactly sure what ODC is. So ODC is basically overcurrent protection. It's over discharge protection. So basically, like I was saying, overcurrent protection. So I don't know, maybe it's 5 or 10 minutes you have to wait for it to just reset itself. I don't think there's anything we can really do. All right, as you can see, got a different 12-volt battery hooked it up. The other one, I'm sure after 60 seconds, it's supposed to come back on its own. But probably if I hook it up to a charger, it'll probably restart. I just don't have time for that right now. So I just hooked up another 12-volt battery that I found, and we'll see how this thing works with this other battery. Let's go ahead and turn it on. Bam. So not the inverter, just the battery, like I said, because it was in over discharge protection mode. And right now the voltage and everything's coming up. So what we want to do, we'll do the 5-minute test. Basically, we'll turn this thing on high, and you'll be able to see the voltage go up over here. I just started the timer. Go ahead and let this thing roll for 5 minutes. All right, while this thing is running, we'll go ahead and check out the amps and see what the amps is pulling from that battery to make sure that is not going to go out again on this new ones. All right, as you can see, I got it zeroed out right there. It's pulling 117 amps. So it's probably on the border of kicking out for this 100 amp BMS on this battery. Let me get it where you can see it a little better. Woo, that's hot. So as you can see, 115 amps, 115.9 amps. So a little over what this BMS can do. So it may kick out from that after a couple minutes or 5 minutes. But it's not kicking out because of the inverter. The thing is running. And we're already past the 2-minute mark. 2 minutes and 22 seconds. Three minutes. And you see our voltage. And as you might be able to see, the voltage is 119 volts and 1195 watts coming out. So this inverter brings it back up to the voltage it needs to be, even when it's running fairly hard. Four minutes. Still running. And when we hit the 5-minute mark, what we'll do is go ahead and turn off the heat gun and see how long it takes the fan to kick out on the inverter. Because the fan will still be running to keep itself cool. And we'll see how many seconds it runs afterwards. So we're at almost at 5 minutes at 4:55. So just hit 5 minutes. I turned the heat gun off. As you can probably hear, the fan is still running on the inverter. So let's see how many seconds it runs before it cools itself off and kicks out. 10 seconds. So at 5:10, it was already kicked out. So that's not bad at all after running 5 minutes fairly hard at 1100 some watts coming out of this thing, which was over 50% of its rating. So not bad at all. So this BougeRV 2000 watt inverter, I don't think it's bad at all for what you're getting. You know, that fan, it cools itself off pretty good. After 10 seconds, the thing kicked out. So that means the fan's doing what it's doing. It is fairly loud when you're running over 1,000 watts. So, you know, if you want it to be super, super quiet, you run it less than 1,000 watts. And I didn't hear fans kick on at all. It didn't make a sound. So, you know, that's pretty good. So if you keep it less than 1,000 watts, which a lot of people do on emergency stuff or whatever, using this for that emergency power, so we run a fridge and some lights and maybe a TV or something like that, it's going to be less than 1,000 watts. It's not going to be pulling a ton of power. So it's going to be pretty quiet. But if you are going to be going over that 1,000 watts and using a bunch of power, you know, you might want it in a separate kind of enclosure to keep it a little quieter, or at least away from your living space wherever you're at, you know, because it is pretty loud. But that is like a lot of inverters, even your 48-volt inverters. Once they get over that 50% mark of their output, even the good ones like these EG4s that are pretty quiet, like right now that thing's running, it's not making any noise back there because it's not doing a lot of output. But once they get a lot of PV going in or a lot of output, you know, the sound does kick up on them. So let's see, the thing is not hot either. Like, you know, when you're touching the front, the sides, the back, after doing all those tests and then running it for 5 minutes straight, you know, I don't feel any hot spots on it at all, you know, nowhere, not near the plug, nowhere. So, you know, that's all good. So let's go ahead and see what the price is running about right now. And I forgot, this thing does have a Bluetooth, so we're going to go ahead and need to try that out as well. But we'll talk about that after we talk about the price. I'll talk about so right now this thing is going for $289 right on their site. But they do have a 20% off discount code. So let's go ahead and add that. And add it and let's see what we get. So $232. So definitely not a bad price for a 12-volt inverter. That's going to be pretty good quality. BougeRV, y'all know I've tested a bunch of their stuff out, and pretty much everything they've sent me has been good quality stuff. And some of it I use all the time. Like that refrigerator they sent me, I mean, I use that thing all the time. That thing is awesome. So, you know, they definitely make a lot of good products. They've been making it for years for RVs and campers and stuff like that. So definitely, if you're interested, of course, I have the thing linked up down in the description. But let's go ahead and try to get the app running with the Bluetooth to see how that looks. So I don't know if it's just a regular BougeRV app, but I'm just going to go ahead and go on it and see what we got. Let's see here. Let's go to add device. I'm going to have to log into this thing. Why do you got to log into everything? Now, that's already something I don't like. I don't like logging into every single app. You should just be able to use it as a guest. Just click on the thing, bam, it should work. I shouldn't have to make an account. I can't stand that. Wrong password. I'm pretty sure I made an account before. Be here all day trying to do this. Let's just click off of this. Stop recording. Frustrating. See, why can't everything just be simple, man? Why? I just want the verification code, of course. Frustrating. Come on, man. So the app, frustrating. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Let me get the thing recording. All right, I finally got logged in. Aggravating mess. And as you can see, I pull it up right here, and it says online. So let's go ahead and click on the inverter. And as you can see, no output right now, 13.5 volts. And it's gonna have it where you can turn it on and off. You can turn the temperature from Celsius to Fahrenheit. It's gonna show you the voltage, your current, your frequency. It's going to tell you how long the thing's been running, the max power usage of the day. So, hey, not bad at all. It says 1200 watts, the max we've used today. But all that means is since the last time it was turned on. Because before that, it was 1800 or whatever, and it kicked out. So, you know, just since the last time it was turned on, because the time of the day has been running is like, what, 14 minutes? And that's just since the last time we turned it on. So let's go ahead and start some loads and just see how the app correlates. It's probably going to be showing the same thing as this display is my guess. You know, it's probably not going to be any faster, and it might actually be slower. No, should be slower since it's going through Bluetooth, it's not going through an internet site. But let's go ahead and turn this on high and see what happens. I'm still going to have it pulled up here. As you see, 1073 watts, 1145, 1176, 1182. So it seems like it's just a little bit behind what this is showing at 1188, then that one went to 1188. So the screen right here is just a hair faster than the Bluetooth, which, you know, makes sense since it's wireless. And as you see, the current, and that's just going to be the current coming out from the plug, is 9.8 amps. And I don't think it's going to tell you the current coming from the battery, which would be nice if you had that as well. All right, so I just turned it off. And your output, as you can see, just went down. We'll go ahead and stop the recording with the app. Not terrible with the app. I mean, it's pretty close within a second or whatever of the display screen, which is just basically got like a little Ethernet cable, RJ45, whatever cable. So that's just going to be a hair faster than the Bluetooth. But, of course, Bluetooth, you can have it right on your phone, right in your hand, you know, as long as you're within range of this thing, you know, which is probably going to be in the 30 to 40 foot range. And my build's not big enough to be messing around with that right now. But most people are going to be relatively close, within 20 feet, I'm guessing, of your inverter whenever you're trying to check it. And if not, you take your little display, you know, with your with your cord and you put it right where you want it. So between this inverter and maybe even your 12-volt car battery, or you get a 12-volt lithium, or you get a couple of 12-volt lithiums if you find them on sale, then, you know, you'll be able to run quite a bit. You know, throw you a little bit of solar on it. You know, get you a solar charge controller, charge up your batteries during the day, or just get you a regular charger and a generator, and you take a generator and charge the battery back. And at night, you know, you can run off of this, run your house lights and your refrigerator, or whatever it is you are trying to run. You know, maybe a heated blanket in the winter or something like that. Heated blankets are one of the best ways to stay warm if you lose power, you know, that use relatively low power. So you can run something like this and pull like 40 watts out of it, 40 to 60 watts off a heated blanket, and run for a long time off a battery like that, you know, because that's quite a bit of power. 12 volts, 100 amp hours, you know, it's usually gonna be what, 1.28 kilowatts or something like that. So not gonna be bad at all, gonna run quite a long time. Definitely gonna make it through a whole night and at least be able to stay relatively warm. And remember, if I have any other discount codes, I'll put them down below and I'll put a link, but they have basically a discount right on their website. You can go check it out, that 20% off right now. So you get this thing for about $232. Not a bad price for emergency preparedness or to put in your RV or something like that. Just depends on what you want to use it for. So if you like this kind of video, hey, think about hitting that subscribe button, hitting that like button, and thanks for watching.